Hey, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening to you, depending on when you're watching this edition of Hypnosis Week Live. Yes, it's me again by birth, Alex William Smith, but better known to many of you as the bad boy of British hypnosis, Jonathan Royal of magicalguru.com. As always, I am delighted to have a guest who you will no doubt have already heard of. His reputation precedes him, but in case there is one or two of you who don't already know, well, let me tell you that Joe Vitale, or Joe Vitale, depending how you choose to pronounce it, who you know from The Secret film and book, says that this gentleman is among the best in the world. Kevin Harrington from Shark Tank said he is without doubt the best in his field. He runs NLP training courses, hypnosis training courses, coaching training courses. He's the co-author of a book, You Can Attract It, with Frank Mangano. You've probably seen him on TV, if you're in America, a show called Millionaire Matchmaker, season 5, episode 7, and season 8, episode 4, just to make your life easy when you go on YouTube. Yeah, please welcome to the show, Dr. Steve G. Jones. How are you doing?
Hey, great, Jonathan. Thanks for having me.
Well, look, the first question I ask everyone is, there was quite clearly a time in your life when you weren't a hypnotist, when you didn't do all this coaching, NLP, hypnosis stuff. What's your journey that got you to where you are now?
Well, it's been a long journey, as you can imagine, but it's been a slow evolutionary process. My first large step into the world of hypnosis on the professional scene was the first major step up, was when I was in Los Angeles and I got my office in Beverly Hills. That's when things really started to accelerate. Before then, being a hypnotherapist and renting offices was one thing, but then getting my own office in Beverly Hills, that established me as the hypnotist to the stars. And then from there, it was very interesting because I had that office for a while, but then this whole internet thing was starting. It's around the year 2000 to 2004. And I realized that I didn't need the fancy office anymore. I could just work remotely on the internet. So I moved to Georgia and bought a house there and started segueing more into online. And the rest has kind of flowed from there.
Cool. In terms of when you started out, I know you run courses yourself now, but in terms of when you started out, what you don't need to mention specific schools or anything, but what sort of study route did you go down to before you went out there doing it?
Well, my path was, my background is in psychology, so I studied psychology at the University of Florida. So I went to the University of Florida to study psychology just to focus on hypnosis, actually. I was shocked to find out that there wasn't any course on hypnosis in the whole program. So hypnosis is something that's taught outside of academia. So you're not, I mean, there are some schools of hypnosis, but they're usually not accredited where you can get a bachelor's degree or a master's or a doctorate there. So my master's and doctorate and bachelor's are all in accredited schools, and my hypnosis training is outside of academia. So it was just books that I had read and courses that I had taken, sort of like the one that I offer now through the American Alliance of Hypnotists. They are outside of academia.
So that, yeah, by academia, just to clarify, I assume you mean, tell me if I don't want to put words in your mouth, but for viewers at home, I think contextually you mean the so-called conventional educational system.
Yes.
And the reason I'm doing that, it's not that I'm poo-pooing the education system, although I kind of suppose I am a little bit tongue-in-cheek. It's just that, frankly, when it comes to things like hypnosis, from what I've seen that they do include in some psychology degree courses, their information on hypnosis is quite a lot of it's quite frankly wrong, as any of us who work in the real world with clients will be able to testify. So although they're perceived as conventional, respectable academia, it doesn't mean that actually what they're teaching is necessarily right in the real world.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't have any experience with that because, as I said, they didn't teach me any hypnosis whatsoever. So I
No,
don't know.
but you study psychology, and I'm sure. Well, maybe you won't agree, and that's fine because you're allowed to disagree. But I suspect, having done conventional psychology training to degree level, that you will have found that they have certain conventional psychology has certain beliefs that in the real world of treating clients with hypnosis and similar things, you can get far quicker results often than what the conventional training says should be possible.
Yeah, that is quite true. In some situations, that is true. For example, I have an example of that. I have a friend who I trained in hypnosis. He took my certification program, and he is also a licensed therapist in the state of California. And what he found is that he was not legally allowed to use the techniques that I had taught him when he was seeing clients under his license as a therapist. So what he did, he talked to his lawyer, and so he worked out something like on Tuesday and Thursday, he would be a hypnotherapist, and on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, he would be a licensed therapist. So things that he wanted to do that he knew when he was in those therapy sessions, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, he knew that he could help them more quickly with hypnosis, but he wasn't legally allowed to use those techniques with those clients. So he had to only focus on them on Tuesday and Thursday. So yeah, there are a lot of things that hypnotherapists do that get things done a lot more quickly than a talk therapist would. But in many cases, a talk therapist is simply not legally allowed to use those techniques. So the therapy can be a lot quicker with a hypnotherapist because of all that.
Just to clarify, that is definitely correct in America, which obviously Steve's over in the States. That is not the case in England. You can, and a lot of places in Europe. Admittedly, you can't call yourself a psychiatrist because that's a protected title, or a psychologist because it's a protected title. But you can. But those people who are psychiatrists or psychologists in England and most of Europe can quite happily hypnotise people, use techniques, and it's just different laws for different countries. So don't assume it applies everywhere. Check your own state laws. Don't blame us or anything we say, type thing.
Very good disclaimer. I appreciate you saying that.
So yeah, I mean, I noticed one thing I want to. We're going to cover various areas during this, but one thing that occurs to me, and let me say this straight up front, my view on this is that it is a great marketing plan. It brings the training to an audience who may not necessarily be able to afford it otherwise initially, which means ultimately it's helping way more people. But I know there will be some people out there, I know because I get it myself, and I follow much the same kind of path as you do, Steve, in that I sell sort of several layers of courses, introductory, next level, and then trainers, and they're all at highly affordable prices. They're not thousands upon thousands of dollars or pounds like a whole bunch of people out there do. But there's some out there, generally those people who are running those types of training organisations, because they don't want to lose out on sales, it'll go, it can't be any good because you're selling it so cheap. Now, I know that's nonsense, and I know you know that's nonsense, as do your students and the people who give you positive feedback. But what would you say to those naysayers who may be watching this, who haven't yet invested in one of your courses for one reason alone? They've seen the feedback, they know it's good, but they think, it's bloody cheap, that, $97 for that one, and the next one's $197. It can't be any good if it's that cheap. I know that's not true. But there's some people out there, the only thing that's stopping them from getting one of your courses is that mental block. What would you say to them?
Yeah, I see that. I mean, I'm human. I'm subjected to the same laws of interpreting things as they are. When I see something that's really cheap, I think that it's lacking quality also, because that's just the perception that we have. But think about this. You know, when we used to do video production, what I can do now with my phone, that cost me about $1,000. used to cost about $50,000. The technology that's in this, the video technology that's in this, it previously would cost about $50,000 between the video technology and the broadcast capability that I would have to pay for to get access to all those markets that I can now access through YouTube and Facebook and so forth. I would have had to pay a lot of money to do all of those things, but now I just get a phone and the rest of it's free. The advertising's free. That's because they've got a lot of people paying $1,000. So, you think, why is this not costing $50,000? Why is YouTube not charging and Facebook not charging? They're free. Why is the phone only $1,000? Because a lot of people are using these things, and there are other ways that the companies can now make money, and they can make money in volume. So we make money in volume because we have so many people taking our courses. We don't have to charge these crazy prices. We don't have to charge thousands of dollars. We're not paying for a hotel room, for example. We're not having to have you pay for my flight and my nice meals while I'm teaching you for many days. We're doing it all online. We also had one-time production costs that were years ago. Those have been covered. So there's no reason for us to make the customer suffer and make them pay extra money when, first of all, we don't need the money. Second of all, we make it up in volume. And third, we just want the information to get out to the hands of people who can use it.
Excellent. And I couldn't agree with you more. I knew that was kind of going to be the answer you were going to give, because I've had the same approach since, oh God, I started marketing courses in about 1993, so it was pre-internet. And my business manager, who passed away last year, Peter Hill, he always said, when people would say, why is it so cheap? He'd say, well, it's like the supermarkets. Stack it high, sell it cheap. He said, your richest supermarkets are the ones that are selling things cheapest, but they're selling the most of them. So ultimately, they make the most profit. And it's the same thing. So do not be put off. There is that old saying, if it seems too good to be true, it generally is. But there are actually times now, and Steve's just given you an incredibly good, rational set of reasons why there are times when you can get incredibly high quality content and information, and you don't have to spend bloody thousands and thousands and thousands of bloody dollars. Which makes me logically have to ask you, why do you think there's still some people out there who are trying, well, they are to some degree being successful, but they're not, still having to charge bloody thousands for stuff that you can provide to people for $97 or $197, or if they buy both of them, that's like $300, and they'll have as much, if not arguably more, usable, actionable content than going over there and having spent thousands to get this apparently recognized piece of paper. Because I know that's quite often the angle they go, oh, if you do this, it means you can join such and such a society and have the privilege of paying a yearly fee to be a member of it, when it actually means nothing. They may as well just get your certificate and have it on the wall. It'll, you know.
I agree, and the membership is free. We don't charge a yearly fee for that. Yeah, and it's lifetime, and it's search engine optimized, so people around the world can find the help that they need, because we list people by their city and their country once they're certified in any of my different 22 certification programs. So yeah, I appreciate you bringing all this out, Jonathan. I feel that we, just like yourself, are serving the market in a way that it needs to be served, which is providing high quality, low cost, affordable, accessible information.
Excellent. I totally couldn't agree more. For viewers at home, I promise you I'm not on any commission. There's no kickbacks. That's the same way. I said that before in previous interviews. Any links you will find below are normal links. There's no affiliate bullshit. And if you're in any doubt about that, then physically type the domain name into your other window rather than just clicking on it. I'm blatantly telling you, I am not praising or saying that I agree with this to make money. No, I just want to make it clear, because frankly, I hate the fact that so many people get ripped off thousands of pounds for stuff they could get, whether it's from me, from yourself, Steve, or I would suggest at least both of us and somebody else as well, because it's my belief that people starting out should study at least 2 or 3 different people and then find between those 3 different sources what works best for them, because not everything resonates with everyone. And I think as an industry, there's too many people out there, quite often the ones charging thousands, in my opinion. You do research on them and they haven't really done anything of any particular note in the real world. Whereas if you do some investigation on Steve, you don't accidentally get comments like, you know, the best in the business, one of the best. You don't get big names like Joe Vitale putting the reputation on the line unless the person's actually achieved something, which means you can learn something truly worthwhile by going to those links and studying the courses. So what is different about your courses? I know I'm purposely asking you questions so that the viewers get to know, but I mean, because I know that you cut a lot of the crap out is what I want to say, but what would you say in your words?
I fully agree with everything you said. In fact, it's fascinating how, interestingly, we both see the industry the exact same way, from what I can tell. So I agree with everything you've been saying. And I'm sorry, what was the most recent question that you asked?
Yeah, but how would you say that to people at home? You know, I mean, I put it in that you cut the crap out and get to the point that actually works. Yeah. How would you explain that?
Yeah, I totally agree with that. I you know, a lot of programs, like if you study with people, you know, bless their hearts, they're doing things their way. It's just, you know, when I go to a seminar, I don't want to waste any time. When I watch a how-to video, I don't want to hear the, you know, the backstory of the person, or stories that are not necessarily related, or stories that make that person sound good or cool. I just want the information. I just want to know how to get things done. And so that's what I bring to the table. So in my programs, I just hit the ground running. I just get started, and here's what you need to know. And that's what we do. So I don't waste time with the crap, as you call it, the fluff, the, you know, the nonsense, the stuff that's extra, the filler, you know, that's all removed.
Which for people at home, and this applies to Steve's courses, mine, and there's a few other people out there that have got a similar philosophy. When you're looking at it and you go, right, so it's not just the fact it's cheaper, we've covered that, but you look and you go, oh, this course, it's supposed to be 2 days every fortnight, so 4 days every month for 6 months. But this home study version, there's only maybe 12 hours of videos. Hang on, that doesn't equate. Why 12 hours of videos compared to 4 days a month for 6 months? We can't possibly learn the same amount of stuff, can we? Well, I can tell you, yes, you can when all the crap's pulled out. But what would you say about that, Steve?
Exactly right. I mean, it's kind of like when you boil down something. If you've got some kind of substance in water and you boil all the water away, there's the substance left. You know, if you do that to any of these programs, take away all the extra stories that they tell and information that's really not helpful at all, just things that completely waste time and just fill in the space, then you get down to just the essence of it. That's what I offer. And it sounds like that's what you offer too, Jonathan. And that's awesome, because that's what people want. They don't really have the time to waste on, you know, in their normal lives, when their lives are working normally, they don't have time to waste on, you know, these filler things. They want the information. So if you take all those long programs that are over 6 months or so and you boil them down to just the essence, that's what I'm offering.
Yeah. So look, for people at home, if you're seeing this in weeks to come, this will go live tomorrow, but we're recording this on the 31st of March 2020. I say that because some of the next 5-10 minutes or so conversation may seem rather dated. Well, I hope it's rather dated in at least in 3 months' time, but it certainly would be in a year's time, hopefully sooner, 3 months maybe. But currently we have this coronavirus, COVID-19 crisis going on around the world, and it doesn't matter whether you know what you think's going on. A lot of therapists have suddenly found that, well, obviously they're under glorified house arrest, you know, lockdown, we've got to stay at home, so they can't go into their offices. There's people going online saying, oh, no, that's it. You know, I can't see clients. More and more, fortunately, I'm glad to say, are realizing, oh, yeah, well, actually, I could, thanks to things like Skype, Zoom, and other video platforms. Have you got any amongst your courses and stuff? Do you cover being able to treat and deal with clients online?
Absolutely. All of my courses do that. My hypnosis course does that. My life coaching course does that. All of them cover that because I believe that that's the efficient way to help a lot of people. You know, a lot of people get into the model of, well, I have to see them in person to be a hypnosis session. You know, I don't get that. I don't see it that way. I think that they can be done through video conferencing, just as easily and you know, as well as they can be done in person. So I've always planned for this type of environment because I believe this is the future where people will not be in one-on-one sessions because it simply doesn't make sense and it's highly inefficient.
Okay, so that's excellent because obviously at this time, as you're stuck at home, go to the link below. You can get the advice you require to be able to monetize your skills in the comfort, privacy, and safety of your own home. You don't have to go bankrupt, tits up, as some people are panicking all over the internet, which I can understand. But please, as therapists, you're supposed to be able to take some degree of control of your emotions. And if you can't, do it in private, not on social media, because potential clients will see otherwise. Marketing is the key to a lot of things, obviously. So if you're going to be offering online sessions, I know from myself, but I guess you'd agree that you've got, as long as you transmit that intent through your marketing, that it will work just as well as if they were there with you in the room, then the client that chooses to book is already in that mind state that they'll believe it. So thus making your job easier.
Yep.
Marketing in general, or something, I mean, people will see when they look at your websites, they're all very slick, clean, easy to navigate and all that. Clearly, it's something you're very good at. Do you do all this yourself, or do you have a team behind you?
Well, my website is stevechijones.com, and from that I run the American Alliance of Hypnotists and a couple other organizations. So that website I do myself, and that previously wasn't the case. I initially hired a web designer when I had the first iteration of it in the year 2000 or so. I had my office in Beverly Hills. I didn't think I needed a website. I thought the web, you know, that might be a fad, the internet. I had an office in Beverly Hills 90210, you know, which in America is the, you know, that's the place to be, serving celebrities and so forth. This guy came to me and said, hey, you need a website. And I said, no, I don't. I'm in Beverly Hills. I'm in the Roxbury Medical Building. He said, yes, you do. So I then got a website and we moved into that whole thing, and that definitely changed the situation quite a bit.
Well, yeah, I mean, again, it seems similar timelines, because I know the internet kind of did exist years ago, sort of early mid-90s, but it only really generally, like loads of households having it, became sort of 98, 99, 2000, wasn't it?
Right. Yeah, my first, you know, when I first got into it a little bit, I think it was 1996 when I first became aware of this internet thing and what it could do. Late 95, early 96, but I wasn't on it then. Like Joe Vitale, he was on it. He was an early adopter. He was a go-getter. I came a little late, you know, year 2000, but you know, even for people starting today, it's never too late. You get on there and you show up with something powerful, and people are going to respond to it.
Now, you say it's never too late, and I agree, but sometimes I think you've got to sort of think outside the box, because I guess, and you may tell me I'm wrong, I'm presuming things here purely because I'm verbalizing things I do, because I suspect you probably do them as well. If you use things like, for example, Facebook advertising or Google site placement and stuff to get your site found when people are searching for perhaps hypnotherapy training online or whatever, it can become, unless you really nail how to do it, it can become increasingly more expensive because other people will also be bidding, and it just the cost of acquisition cost of new customers to a website can become ridiculous if you're not doing it organic. Now, it's easier for you and me to a bit of a degree because we in our different circles have got a reputation we've built up over several decades. But for people starting out, what advice would you give to them that have kind of only been at it a couple of years?
Well, I'd be really careful about paying for placement, paying for clicks. For my main website, stevegjones.com, I don't pay for any advertising at all. If you see advertising, it's for another site that's selling my stuff. Under license, of course, they're allowed to do that. But for my main website, I took over the programming a few years ago. I've been trained as a developer. I trained over the course of 3 years daily, and reading books and watching videos. So I'm all trained in that, and I'm responsible now for my main website, and I do all the design on it. And it's interesting. That's where I started because I didn't have the money to pay anyone to do it initially, so I had to do it myself. But I didn't know what I was doing in the year 2000. You can go to the Wayback Machine and see how it was. Not very enticing. But then I hired a web designer, and it got a little better, and it got a little better. But I would say to anyone starting out that you're going to have to be where I am now by choice. You're going to have to be there because you should be there, where you're doing everything yourself. And you do that until you find that there are things that you cannot do. You simply don't have the time to do it, or you don't know how to do it. And you've given it your best shot, and you're just not good at that. That's fine, because that's what you delegate out. But initially, you should be attempting to do everything yourself, and then also staying in the loop. If you're paying someone to do it, make sure you know how long it should take and what exactly they're doing and how much that should cost, because costs have actually come down. Through globalization, the costs of outsourcing work have gone down. They have not gone up over the years. So graphic design, web design, these costs have come down. So you should be aware of that. And so, like when I first got started in my website, year 2000, I paid AdWords on Google. I lost $900 in like 4 days because I put the money in there, and I set what I wanted to do, and it just went right through all the money, and I didn't get anything for it. That's when I realized that you need to be an expert to do that. Otherwise, you're going to lose money. So look for what's free. Look for Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, Pinterest, whatever's next. There'll always be something next. And you want to make sure that you're on all of those things that are free. And I think that's a good smattering of the advice that I would give, unless you have any specific questions.
No, I think that's a cool overview, because obviously people want to explore things in more depth. They can go to the link below and examine out the detailed courses where you elaborate on these areas. We are limited for time. So let me ask you a question that I'm sure will have jumped into the heads of people at home. Can you mention earlier on that you used to be resident in Beverly Hills 90210? Some people have seen the TV show. Yes, we are on about that kind of area of Hollywood, where everyone wakes up with the makeup perfectly done and whatnot. So yeah, I mean, by virtue, you get a lot of rich, famous, connected individuals live in that area. So therefore, logically, if you're living in that area, advertising in that area, there's a good chance that the clients you're going to attract are of that ilk, rich, famous, connected. The question is this, because I have my thoughts on this, but maybe it's different in America than England. But in England, celebrities that I've dealt with over the years, I find you have to. There's no nice way of saying this. You have to go about things a little bit differently than a normal member of the public. Yeah,
I know what you mean. They expect to be. I mean, they feel privileged. And is that what you're talking about?
Yeah, they're wired up differently. They either feel they deserve, to be idolized, worshipped, and obviously the hypnotist, hypnotherapist role, you've got to get some level of authority to get the dynamic to work. But I find quite often as well that they come to therapists because it seemed to be the cool thing to do in the circle, or they do it to shut up a manager who says, hey, you're doing too much coke, so go and see this therapist. And they're shutting the manager up, but truly deep down they've got no real personal desire to actually stop taking the coke, for example. It's a different dynamic.
Yeah, I've seen that dynamic with parents. A grown man, his mom brought him in for using crack, actually, to my office one time, and that's something I've seen. But I haven't seen so much of the dysfunction in the celebrity world. I've seen more of the, hey, I used to make big movies and now I'm not anymore. Can you get me back in that? I need my mojo back, as they say. I need my focus back. I need to get back in the game. I was making 25 million a year. Now I'm making 0. So actors, when they work, they make a bunch of money. When they don't work, they make no money. So mostly that's what I've dealt with. But yeah, there is that. You touched upon something that's very important when working with celebrities or anyone with an authority status. Which is you have to establish that dynamic. I'm in charge, you listen to me. That's the dynamic to establish. With someone who, it being the opposite way, that they're in charge, you listen to them. So number one, realize they want to be told what to do. They don't want to be bossed around in a harsh way, but they do want you to take control, because that's what they expect. They don't want you to bow down to them. They want you to tell them what to do, because they've humbled themselves to come in there, and they are looking for that. So I start right away with the standard hypnotic type stuff that we do in the office, giving them directions, sit here, move over there, do this, do that. You're getting compliance from them, which is very essential when working with a client, as you know, Jonathan, because then you're segueing into the hypnosis. It just makes it easier. They're already used to taking your commands. So you have to kind of turn that up a few notches, but not to the point of being offensive or rude.
Excellent advice. Yeah, and you explained that better than me, frankly, because that's what I was getting at by it being a different dynamic. You've got to almost get them into reacting like, and it sounds offensive to celebrities, and it is, I'm sorry, but you've got to get them into more of a normal member of the public state of mind, because for whatever reason, whether it's ego, success, or whatever, often a little bit elevated, or they think they are. So that excellent advice. What's the most unusual thing that you've ever been presented with by a client? Obviously, you can't mention who the client is. We get that, but
yeah. Well, it was when I had that office in Beverly Hills. I had a lady who came into the office, and she claimed that she had been impregnated by aliens. And yeah, so I asked. Now, interestingly enough, she had children. She had physical children who, we could all observe and see, okay, those exist in what we consider reality. But these pregnancies that she had were not, she said those children were not a result of these pregnancies. She said she'd been impregnated by aliens numerous times. But the logic didn't really flow from there. There wasn't a birth, there wasn't any evidence of it. I wasn't quite clear on what happened. So, I'm not here to judge, nor am I a psychologist or a psychiatrist, so I don't diagnose. I just deal with what shows up. And so I dealt with that, but that was very, as you can imagine, just hearing it, it's tricky. It was a very tricky situation to deal with.
I mean, how would you deal with that? Was it was it?
Well, you don't want to,
like grief. She felt that the alien babies had been stolen from her.
No, it wasn't that. Yeah, see, it didn't really go anywhere. The story that she presented didn't really go anywhere. There was no birth. There was no miscarriage. It was just she was impregnated. by the aliens. And apparently when an alien impregnates you, in her mind, it doesn't really lead to an actual birth. It's more of a perhaps metaphysical situation. I don't know exactly, but I do know that it didn't follow the normal course of events in her mind. At any rate, there I was, and I'm not a psychologist or a psychiatrist, so I couldn't say you are blank, psychotic or what have you, because I'm not equipped to diagnose. She didn't want a referral to a psychologist or a psychiatrist, even though I felt that would be the best. So I had to deal with it. And what I really gave her was just the peace of mind to be calm, because I think a lot of it was anxiety related. She had a lot of anxiety about various things in her life, and about men in her life, and about her children, and about the pregnancies she had had. So I went in from that angle of, let's just have you calm down and relax.
Excellent. Nice one. So I'm just looking at my notes down here. I know you have, as well as the courses on your website and stuff, you co-authored a book with Frank, I'm not sure if I'm saying this right, Mangano,
yes. He's coached me in how to say his name properly. Mangano is the best way.
Called You Can Attract It, on the law of attraction and stuff. Tell us a bit about that book that people can find on Amazon.
Yeah, Frank Mangano and myself. He's my business partner, and in fact, he runs a lot of my promotions for my hypnosis audios. I've known him for close to 20 years now, and he's a great guy. And around 2008 or so, we got together and wrote this book, and it took us a couple of years to write from beginning to end. And it's just a story of where we came from and how he and I, living two separate lives, going through two separate types of situations. He was a bus driver in Brooklyn, making $300 a week, and he wanted to change his life. I was a successful hypnotherapist in Beverly Hills. We start my story from there, and you think, how could it get better from there? Well, it got better when I moved to Georgia, stopped that stressful life, and focused more on the online stuff, where I could be relaxed and help thousands of people instead of just one person an hour. And so it just follows that interesting trajectory of this guy going from being a bus driver to a multimillionaire, me going from very successful to being successful and at peace.
Excellent. So with that in mind, you mentioned you now at peace. It's an interesting and very powerful and emotive word, that. And from what I just heard you say, that's come about through creating multiple streams of effectively autopilot passive income, that once you've made the stuff and it's out there in the digital world that we live in, that even when you go to sleep tonight, people in another time zone can go and sign up to one of your courses and start studying and stuff. What advice would you give to the viewers in terms of utilizing their skills, knowledge, and experience to start on that path to building their own streams of passive income?
Yeah, whatever you've got, you can turn it into a program. Doesn't matter what you're good at. If you're good at, claymation, making claymation videos. I was talking to a claymation producer last night. That's why it's on my mind. If you're good at making paper airplanes, if you're good at directing movies, if you're good at writing books, it doesn't matter what you're good at. Whatever it is, there's a market for it. Someone wants to learn what you know, as long as you actually know how to do something. So if you do know how to do something, first of all, sharpen that up a little bit. Make sure, study up on the latest and greatest. Make sure you know that subject very well. And then just get started. Just start producing programs on that. Because a lot of what people take for granted when they know how to do something, other people just don't know. So even if it seems basic to you, people need the basics. People need to start somewhere. So they need that information. Then they need more advanced information. So just like Jonathan and I have done, if you have information that's on a topic, any topic, sharpen it up and then start making videos and audios and ebooks, and you can sell them online. You can advertise free. Like I said, I don't pay for any advertising these days. And you can just put out videos and post things on social media, draw people to what you're doing, have some free giveaways to get them more interested, and then offer your programs for money, and people will respond to that.
Excellent. Now, I've asked this question before. Well, I asked this question the other day to, why am I having a mental head block here? Glenn Harold, who is the United Kingdom's best-selling audio self-help author, sold absolutely millions upon millions of self-help hypnotherapy tracks. So I'm going to ask you the same question I asked him. I believe that they work as long as the person buying them is in the right state of mind and believes that they will work. But I know there's a lot of therapists out there. I see them bitching in forums sometimes going, oh, I can't believe such and such has brought out this audio hypnotherapy track, and it can't possibly work. It's not the same as them being there in the office with you. And personally, I think that if the client believes it will work for them, that it can be potentially life-changing. What's your views on that?
I do see the point that the person mentioned, and I charge a lot for an in-person session. So I charge quite a bit for that, but I don't charge much for an audio. So I always say, maybe you're right, maybe they're right, maybe it's less effective when you're using an audio that's a generic audio without your name versus a session where they're using your name and it's tailored to you. I get that. However, think about the difference in energy you have to expend and money. You have to go to that office. You have to reveal your deepest secrets to a stranger. You have to make time to do that. You have to go through traffic and find parking and all that versus you click a button and you download something, you listen to it, and maybe you have to listen to it longer. Maybe you have to use that in conjunction with some other things. But at least you didn't have to do all those other things. And if it does work, look at how much time and money you've saved yourself and you've gotten the results. So I see the point of the person. I do consider that to be potentially valid. And I also see your point, Jonathan, which is, yeah, that's the essence of hypnosis. It's kind of like a placebo. If you believe in it, it's going to work a lot better. And so that helps also. As long as you believe that you're going to get there, you can potentially have the same exact results with an audio as you can with an office session, whether it's by believing it more, whether it's by using it more, whether it's by using it in conjunction with someone else. But you've also saved a lot of time and money when you do get that success.
Cool. I just had a thought, and it only entered my head as you were speaking. And I don't know, somebody may already be doing this, and if they are, they wouldn't tell us anyway, because that would defeat the object of its effectiveness. But if you get a certain script or whatever it may be, I mean, I have a thing I call complete mind therapy that's worded in such a way that the client fills in blanks, so they think in their head it's specific for them. But a stage beyond that, if you had a script, once you've recorded it once, say your smoking cessation, in this day and age, Audacity software is free. You could charge more than your normal generic recording by having a bit at the beginning and end where you actually do mention their names. So psychologically, it seems it's been made specially for that person. But if you only say the first name, once you've done it the once, you've got that name on file on your computer. So you've only got to take the ball ache to record their name once. Your middle bit's the same every time. So it's only going to take you maybe 2 minutes to record an intro and outro with a name that you haven't already got on your computer system, and then just run it through to make a final MP3 file that you can store on your external hard drive, so that when another Dave asks for that recording, you've already got it. But as you go along, you build up more, and you could have more specific sounding recordings.
Yeah, you could absolutely do that. I had an app developer approach me a few years ago about that very concept. And in programming, it's fairly simple. It's just concatenation for those programmers out there, where you're taking that audio file and you concatenate it. And that means you just add it to like, hello, blank. So it'd just be you're adding the blank part, Dave or Bill or whoever. You build up your library over time. So I think that's a wonderful idea. I haven't done that because I don't really have a reason why I haven't done that. But what I do instead is I offer custom audios where instead of just putting their name in there, we're putting a whole middle section of their information in there. So I charge a bit more than the normal recordings, but not as much as an office recording for that customized audio where the middle part is all about exactly what they're going through. And I get that information.
Questionnaire, I guess, do you?
Questionnaire. I also have a half-hour session with them where I talk to them and they get to tell me what's going on. The one I had with a gentleman recently, the most recent one I did a couple weeks ago, we actually ended up talking for an hour because I had to drill down a little more deeply. But I get that information out of them and I put that in the middle. So I think that for me, I feel better about that than just putting their name in there. I feel it's a better service. When we're making a jump from generic and they don't want to go to office session, I think that's the middle ground for me, is that type of customized session.
Sure. Excellent. All food for thought. I'm looking at my notes. You've explained things so well, Steve. I'm looking here at my notes. You've already covered that. Okay, yeah. Not for the reasons of being purposely controversial, just because it's something that people so often misunderstand, I think. Because you have law of attraction courses. And law of attraction, there's a lot of people out there who go, what a whole load of bunkum. If it worked, given that The Secret sold millions upon millions of copies worldwide, why aren't there more millionaires or rich people, And my personal view is because it's the same as with self-help books. Most people are kind of in a comfort zone that they want to feel like they've done something, but then they never actually take action.
Yeah.
That said, there are other reasons as well. So from your point of view as someone who runs law of attraction courses, what do you think it is that actually stops people from manifesting what they want in their life, even when they've looked at things like The Secret or your course or whatever?
Yeah, I think it's kind of like, I think of it like giving someone a car or someone buying a car. It doesn't mean the car is going to drive itself. You still got to get in the car and you've got to drive around and make things happen. So people sometimes fail to realize that part. It's not a magic wand that's being waved and suddenly everything's done for you. It's just positive beliefs being put in your mind that you can act on, but if you don't act on them, you're not going to get anywhere. So I think that's the part that people miss. And Lisa Nichols, and I've talked with her, Lisa Nichols, who was in The Secret, she used to have people come up to her all the time and say, I want a genie, I want a genie, I want, like in The Secret, I want the genie to come out. She started doing talks. I met her in Costa Rica about 10 years ago, and she started doing talks, and the first thing she would say is something along the lines of, there is no genie. There's no genie. Doesn't exist. The genie is just a representation of the manifestation, but the manifestation comes from you having those positive thoughts and then getting to work doing those things.
I can't remember who it was, but I remember a famous person being interviewed on the Parkinson Show, which is an English chat show, a famous presenter called Michael Parkinson, and he asked this celebrity, he said, oh, you've done TV dramas, you've done films, you've done variety theatre, it seems whatever you do turns to gold type of thing. And the answer, and it seemed a bit glib at the time, it was only a while later I realised how true it is. He said, the funny thing is, I became more successful the more action I took and the more effort I put in.
Funny, huh? Yeah.
And then at the time I thought, you what? And then I thought about it and I thought, yeah, in other words, what you've just said is you've actually got to get off your ass and do something.
Yeah. It's like the old saying, the harder I work, the luckier I get. Luck can happen randomly, but normally what we call luck is just the result of being in the right place and being well prepared for the opportunities that may present themselves and being in a lot of the right places.
So obviously you've part answered it there. Those are the kinds of things you will show people to be more aware of in your law of attraction course. But what kind of areas does it go into?
The law of attraction, I do that with Joe Vitale, Dr. Joe Vitale, who's in the movie The Secret. So we created that program together, Law of Attraction certification. So he brings the metaphysical side, the law of attraction side. I bring the psychological side, even though I'm not a psychologist, but I come more from what we might call a psychological side with my undergraduate and graduate training in psychology. So I'm more focused on the mechanics of your subconscious mind and how if you train it in a certain way, it will act that way. The reticular activating system, which, you know, we can train it to look for certain things in the environment. We can train it to look for positive opportunities or negative things. So why not focus on positive things? So I bring the simple mechanics of what we might call the psychological side to it.
Have you ever read, I'm sure you probably have, why am I having a mental block day today? The Master Key by Charles Hannay.
Yep.
I believe, yeah. I mean, that's kind of one of the ones where all this started off, isn't it?
Exactly. I mean, that's you know, back in the day, this is around 100 years or so that came out. So that was maybe even longer than that. But the idea is timeless. You know, this is something that pops up every now and then, which is you have the power within yourself to change. So you know, the Master Key came out a long time ago, and then The Secret. Eventually there'll be something else that's a big hit, and it'll seem like new stuff to everyone. It'll seem like a revelation. Oh my goodness, we didn't know this, but people just tend to forget it. And so every now and then you get this big reminder. But it's the same stuff that people have always been talking about, which is you have the power within your mind to create your reality, to control the narrative, to get yourself from where you are to wherever you want to be.
And I'm going to say I'm finally, because we're coming close to the end, going back to your hypnosis type courses and stuff. What do you make of, you know, I'm not going to mention names because that wouldn't be fair, but practically every day it seems a new modality is invented by somebody or released after, you know, their advert will say after years of testing it in the field, and you researched them and that person only bloody learned hypnosis themselves like 2 years ago. So God knows. But, you know, false advertising claims aside, there's new modalities getting released every day, different names. And yet when you look at them, the truth is, if they'd studied, like, not necessarily just your basic therapy course, but that one and the next one up, so the $97 and the $197 one, if they'd done both of them and really paid attention to them, the truth is they don't need any of these fancy name courses over here, because they already would have the knowledge to be able to work out how to do the same process themselves if they desired. The only thing they end up buying is a bit of paper with a logo on, a marketing angle, which they could come up with themselves. What's your thoughts on that?
That's so true. I mean, that's exactly how I think of the whole thing. I always tell people hypnosis is very simple. You know, it's a very straightforward procedure. There's not a whole lot to it. But sometimes people think that in order for them to sell their program, they have to have something different. They have to have something unique. This is specialized hypnosis or ABC hypnosis or, you know, whatever they come, or, you know, NLP has the same issues, neuro-linguistic programming. They come up with different types of it. But the essence of it is still the same. So, yeah, I don't go in for any of that stuff. I keep things very simple. I'm a very simple, straightforward person. I like things cut and dried. I like just the facts. So I respect the client, the customer in that regard, and I expect to be treated the same way, although the market doesn't usually present things that way. Yeah, it's always the latest way to do things, but it's unnecessary. I think it's a waste of time. It clouds people's perception. It makes things seem confusing. It makes things seem a lot more difficult than they are. It may make the presenter of the program seem cool or very knowledgeable or what have you, or it may distinguish them as, you know, they're the inventor of this, but this didn't need to be invented because we already had the main stuff.
Yeah, excellent. And finally, and we are at and finally, if you could only recommend 3 books, and I know there's thousands of books on the planet, but if you could only recommend 3 books to the viewers, I'm going to say hypnosis in general, and by that I mean it doesn't matter what area of hypnosis, and it might not even be about the techniques. It might be about marketing. Who knows? What are your top 3 valued books that you'd recommend to viewers?
Well, definitely, if we're talking about hypnosis, I'll give you one hypnosis book and then a couple others that I think are valuable in general. So if you're just to get one hypnosis book, I would get the big, we call it the red book, you know, the thick red book by Cordion and Hammond, I think it is. I forget the exact names of the authors, but we call it the big red book. I think the author is, there's the name Cordion and the name Hammond in there, and it's a book of hypnotic suggestions and metaphors, and it's by a lot of PhD psychologists. I think they have a few MDs in there. Are you Googling it at the moment?
Yeah, because I'm having a mental block myself. Hypnotic inductions and metaphors. It's and it's got handbook in the title. I remember that. Handbook of hypnotic suggestions and metaphors.
Yes.
The big red book, Dr. Croydon Hammond and Harold B. Krasel Neck.
There you go. What he said. Yeah, we just call it the big red book in hypnosis. So we all, you know, we're all aware of it. You're aware of it, and everyone in hypnosis.
Big red book, Lo, yeah.
Exactly, that's what we call it. So get that, because it's a nice, like an old time Los Angeles phone book. It's got a lot of stuff in it, and it's good stuff, and it's checked out by a lot of very knowledgeable people. So in hypnosis, get that. That's a go-to that every hypnotist starting out should have in their library to access for script ideas for hypnotizing people and for understanding the science behind hypnosis. Outside of that, just books in general, I recommend Siddhartha by Hermann Hesse. That's a philosophical book where this guy named Siddhartha meets the Buddha, and he goes through the spiritual journey. So for me, that's just always been a very powerful book. So Siddhartha is a great book. And also The Richest Man in Babylon.
Yeah, excellent.
Have you read that? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it's just a really good, solid book about having a good, solid financial understanding of life, and other good lessons are in there. So the big thick book, the big thick red book by the Hypnotic Guide to Hypnotic Suggestions, I believe it's called, and The Richest Man in Babylon and Siddhartha. Those are my 3 picks for books.
Excellent. And it jumped into my head when you went from Richest Man in Babylon. Similar vein, but slightly different. I would recommend The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari. Can't remember the name of the author, but if you type in The Monk Who Sold His Ferrari in Amazon, it will pop up. So there you go. Somewhere to keep you busy until the next episode of Hypnosis Week, where you're on lockdown. Get on Amazon, order them. While you're there, have a look at You Can Attract It. Steve's book with Frank Mangano, and of course look at the link below, stevegjones.com. Look up the courses that we've talked about, and we'll see you on the next edition of Hypnosis Week. Thank you so much for your time, sir. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Same here, Jonathan. Thank you.